We're in Texas at this point.
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Sorry. Texas, then North Carolina. So what happens after that?
So after that, I finished my contract with the Navy. I do not want to re-enlist because I've had too many sour moments, and the whole Navy experience just didn't do it for me. Now, granted, I did have a lot of good times, and I had a lot of really good memories with some great people, but overall, it wasn't for me anymore. I grew out of it, I guess you could say. Um, so I get out, I come back home to Barberton. Within, I don't know, a week of coming home, I got a really good job offer, uh, working with a staffing company for select staffing. Um, Unfortunately, I didn't take enough time to process the military to civilian life. So,
Which is the thing. Like,
yeah,
I don't think a lot of people realize.
that's a real thing.
There's a transition that you probably should go through
Yeah.
when you do that.
So I didn't take a healthy amount of time to kind of get my mind right into uh, work my way back into the civilian life. Um, there's just a lot of things that are different about being in the military and being a civilian. Um, in the military, everybody knows their place, everybody has their role to play, and in the civilian world, it's not really how that works. Everybody is just kind of all over the place, and anybody can be doing anything. So, for me, who's always used to structure and how things work, that was very jarring at first to be like, oh well, this guy can just do whatever he wants. So like, what's going on?
Like, where's the consequence?
Yeah. So that was something that it took me a little bit of time to get used to. And the job was great. The people were great. It wasn't for me. I'm a very hands-on person, and the job wasn't. I didn't really do a whole lot. So I just uh, my worth felt like it wasn't there. I guess, especially after carrying fallen sailors and working in a hospital saving lives. I didn't feel like I was making an impact. So unfortunately, we had to separate. Um, it was very mutual. Like they were very understanding. I was very upfront about what was going on. So we ended on great terms. Um, and then after that is when I kind of spiraled out of control, I guess. Um, even more so than I already was. Uh, so this is when I started to dabble in drugs and start partying way more than I was until uh, one day um, my second little brother was actually graduating. Well, he already graduated high school, but he was having his graduation party. Um, and everything was normal. It was just celebrating my little brother's success. And throughout the day, I started drinking at like 6 a.m. So around noon, I was already completely hammered, almost blackout at this point. I don't really know the events that led up to it, um, but what I do remember is I was driving my truck um, down the highway, and I don't really know what exactly happened, um, but apparently I had crashed into some people. Thankfully, none of them were hurt. Uh, so they called the police. The police show up, and I am in my truck with a gun in my hand and a bullet in my head. Um, I don't really know how it happened. I don't know if I shot myself and then crashed into the people, or crashed into the people and shot myself. To this day, I still don't know. I probably never will. Um, I don't think uh, God will ever let me know, but because of Him, I'm still here today to tell you guys the story.
Yeah. Can you give us some of like how you were feeling leading up to this point? A day of celebration kind of ends in this type of manner. What were your feelings kind of leading up to this point? What was the timeline between this day and when you stopped working at the select staffing job, and kind of just like your emotional state, like up to this point that you can recall or anything like that?
So it's been about a year. Well, I'll say about a year and a half, almost 2 years, um, from the time that I stopped working at select staffing. I started working a couple odd jobs. Can't really find anything that satisfies me. The drinking continues to get worse. My partying and drug habits continue to get worse. I've got several of my really close buddies who end up killing themselves over the allotment of this time. Um, and it's really just eating away at me. Um, just day by day, the daily grind of waking up, not feeling any worth, um, not having anything or anyone really to live for. So it's just kind of depressing, and there's a lot of gloom and gloom around me. Um, I'm isolating myself. I don't really talk to my family a whole lot. So the downward spiral was there, and obviously there were a bunch of people who tried to pull me out of it and help me, but I didn't want it. I didn't want to be a burden on anyone, I guess. Um, which is not the case. No one is ever a burden on anyone. So please, if you think that, I promise you're wrong. Um, but at that time, in the place that I was at, the mindset I was at, I didn't really want anything. I was just kind of living, which is, you know, it's not how you want to live life. Just going day by day without having anything. It's not worth it. There's always you always have someone to help you and that care about you. That is something that I can promise you for sure. But back to the story. Um, yeah, I was just extremely upset with where I was at in my life. I didn't really think that I would be where I was. I had so much success earlier in my life with joining the military and being a part of a prestigious unit and being a part of saving lives. And then all of a sudden I was back home and I was a drunk and I was addicted to drugs and I didn't have a job. It was just, it's crazy to me where I'm at now to look back and think that I was ever that low. Um,
When you did that transition from military to back home, did you have like in your mind you're like, I'm done, I've kind of outgrown the military? Like, did you have aspirations in your mind like, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna do this, or what were your future goals at that point?
and that's kind of what blows my mind is that I didn't really have any plan set up. I was just, at that stage in my life, I was very like, just whatever happens next, I'll tackle it when it gets there. I didn't really have any goals. I didn't plan on going to college to use the GI Bill that I had served 5 years to get. I didn't have any of that set in motion, which is a huge reason and a part of why I failed as hard as I did. Um, Without a doubt, it's definitely entirely my fault. But if I had set up at least something, I definitely probably would have done better than I did for sure.
I just when you had mentioned earlier saying that part of it was you didn't feel like you had worth or any value, especially after coming off a decorated career. I think that's important when especially in this generation, to have goals, to have aspirations and things to kind of reach for, whether you're doing it by yourself or with the army around you. I think that speaks to how important that is, especially when you're trying to find your purpose in life, your worth, and your value.
Yeah, absolutely. No. That is for sure definitely something that everyone should have is goals and plans. And, I know teachers say it all the time, and you think that they're, oh, they're just, trying to play me or whatever. It's real life. You should have plans. You, you should set yourself up
Aspire
for
to
success.
something.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Wow. So you remember waking up.
Yeah. So I woke up in the hospital, and at that time when I first woke up, uh, and I was looking around, I was like, all right, well, I definitely must have crashed my truck, um, because I'm in a hospital. Normally people don't just drive around and wake up in hospitals without something bad happening. Um, so I was so extremely drugged while I was in the hospital that it took me about a week to like really come to.
So you were basically in the coma state for a week before you then.
Well, that was a week from when I first opened my eyes. I was actually in a coma for 2.5 months.
What?
Yeah, yep, 2.5 months in a coma.
So, uh, so the last thing you remember is actually getting in your truck at some point, or do you not even remember getting in your truck?
No, I remember getting in my truck and driving away. That was the last of what I remember until I woke up 2.5 months later.
Were you driving away because of an event, or you were just,
I think I was just going home.
yeah,
Like that's
just headed home,
yeah,
and then literally woke up 2.5 months later?
2.5 months later.
yeah.
So in that 2.5 months, can you walk us through kind of like what, once you woke up and kind of got the story, like what had transpired during all of this time?
Um, yeah. Well, from what I hear,
Word on the street.
yeah, word on the street. No, I left my little brother's graduation party to go home. I guess go to the bar or whatever. I didn't really say anything to anyone. I kind of just got in my truck and left. Um, so that is still kind of a mystery to me. Um, but during those 2.5 months, I was asleep. Asleep. uh, which is crazy to even think about because most people who shoot themselves in the heads don't wake up
At all.
Yeah, grace of God, for sure.